Welcome to our schools, our city. We are very, very excited to be here today to talk about a topic that's near and dear to our heart after having celebrated the Week of the Young Child yesterday. It was an amazing event where the mayor and all of our young people from all of the different delivery services in the city, including our own preschools and kindergartens, attend, and they come and they really greet and celebrate the theme in our city of how to make our city an inclusive one and one that's welcoming for all. And it was a wonderful event. It's one of my favorites to go to see the young kids interacting with the mayor. They really celebrate him as they should. And today we have some guests that were intimate in helping to bring that about. And so I'm very excited to be able to talk about that and to talk about all of the exciting things that are happening in our early childhood sector.
I'm really looking forward to hearing about yesterday's event. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there. It's the first year that I've missed it, but it's always a wonderful celebration of our youngest learners, so I'm looking forward to hearing about that. We do have some expert guests that will talk a little bit about early childhood and the early education system in our city. Somebody that's familiar to our show is Dr. Lisa Q, and Dr. Q is the Director of Early Education in the Somerville Public Schools and also works with agencies across the city. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Glad to have you here. And somebody entirely new to the district and to this work is Alyssa Corrigan. And Alyssa is the coordinator of the Somerville Partnership for Young Children. Thank you for joining us, Alyssa.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We're looking forward to learning a little bit about you and your background and also hearing about the work that you're going to be doing. And also joining us today is Kretcha Roldan, and Kretcha is the Executive Director of the Elizabeth Peabody House. Thank you for joining us, Kretcha.
Thank you for this great opportunity.
So here we are, and it would be great to give the audience just a glimpse of the depth of everything that's happening right now in our early childhood sector. And it's amazing, and I've had the privilege of working with you now for several years, and to be able to see you take that vision and bring it to life across our city has been pretty special.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So what is our early childhood for our parents out there? What does it look like right now?
Well, sometimes it's really confusing for parents to say. And
Spoken like a true parent, right?
Spoken as a true parent. My children are much older. I'm an empty nester, but it was confusing for me then as a parent trying to figure out childcare and how am I going to patch this together, and what about that strange time between when school's over and my job is still going on. And so it can be very confusing and challenging for families, both in trying to figure out where to go and what's available to them, and then what's available to them in their income level.
Right.
So what can I afford, and how am I going to make this work? So part of our work in Somerville is to try and help ease that burden for families.
And that's really a lot of what the Universal Kindergarten Readiness work that we've been doing in the city is about. Can you talk a little bit about Universal Kindergarten Readiness, what the vision is for that, and how this new initiative that's coming into the city through Early Education and Care Department, how that aligns with that work?
Sure. I think Somerville's very forward-thinking in talking about readiness not as a deficit in a child, but in the readiness of the system to receive them. Are schools ready for children? We know all children are ready and eager to learn. Are we providing the environments for them to be able to do that? And we know that those exist in Somerville, but how do we coordinate them and bring them together? So that universal kindergarten readiness is really about making sure every child has every opportunity they can before they enter kindergarten to be able to know how to do some of the things, some social, emotional, and being together with friends, and then some of those basics that they're going to need to know to be successful in school. And are our schools ready to provide that along the way for them? We are very fortunate Somerville's very fortunate to be one of the recipients of the Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative grant, which is providing funding for us to work with our partners in centers like the Elizabeth Peabody House Preschool, with Head Start, with other child care centers across the city, for us to really align our practices and make sure that the quality is there for everybody, public schools, private preschools, Head Start, etc.
So Alyssa, this is an exciting time for you to be able to come into this fabric in Somerville. Maybe give a little background on how you came to us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out in early education. I was in a Montessori classroom, ages 3 through 6. Kind of gave me my first picture of what a really high quality environment looks like, where kids have great opportunities to learn and the teachers were really well supported. And then from there I went to work in early intervention as a developmental specialist. So I worked really closely with kids and families and teachers and kind of saw the intersection of all the parts of a young child's world.
Yep.
And worked so closely with families in terms of what was available to them, what they could access, and how the system was or wasn't set up to help them give their child a good start in life. And so that kind of spurred my interest in the system and systems level thinking. So went to study that in graduate school, understand it better, and applied that in K through 12 systems change and creating structures within districts that work better for teachers and better for principals so that they can make the educational decisions for their students. But really wanted to get back to early ed because that's really kind of where my heart is in education, and heard about this opportunity and the work happening here in Somerville, which is just so exciting to me. And I was saying to Lisa, it was everything I wanted to exist when I was in early intervention, and I wanted that structure to be there for the families that I worked with, the kids that I worked with, and the teachers that I worked with. So I'm just really excited to now be able to be building it with Lisa and with everyone who's involved in this work in Somerville, and all the great people that are here, really committed people, and that's what brought me here.
So in the 2 long weeks that you've been here,
Day 9.
what are your thoughts right now? And is there a particular area that you think you'll focus on right off the bat?
Some of my initial impressions, what I just said, just how committed everyone is, and the really, really collaborative approach that's happening, all the different partners that are at the table, and there's no one that is any less committed than anyone else, and it's pretty rare actually, I think, and that's exciting. And so that was something that was clear right away. And then the other impression is that it's a cool opportunity to figure out how this becomes real now. So we have this amazing structure that Lisa and others created, and now how do we implement it, and what do we have to create to do that? So that was kind of right off the bat that it was clear that is the first task at hand. And so I think that's the big thing to focus in on now for me. But going forward, there's kind of a lot of pieces of this that we want to be really thoughtful about having it come together in the right way. So being thoughtful about how we meet the needs of all our different partners, and how we keep families kind of first and foremost, and kids right in the center of everything we're doing. And that, I think, figuring out that piece is really exciting to me, and something I'll focus on.
I think one of the things that makes Somerville so special is that it literally is a village raising our children. And that means that we rely so heavily on our partners and partnerships, and I know Elizabeth Peabody House has been one of our long-standing partners. So Kretcha, maybe you can just speak a little bit about what the mixed delivery system looks like and how as a partner you access the resources that we have.
Yes, we are so grateful to the Somerville School District because we already know that we have a strong collaboration. Not even without this grant, but we already have the foundation of a strong collaboration with the Somerville School District. So we actually benefit as a whole agency from the teaching coaching program. Because we have coaches coming into our classrooms for a period of X amount of weeks, and they come to our teachers and they develop a plan. And that plan sets goals so that we can improve our classroom environment, so we can improve our classroom practices, so that we can look at maybe some of the challenges that we have and we can overcome those. We also look at how can we improve professionally. And we look at our resources, and so it's very collaboratively. We do it in a way that is strength-based, looking at the resources that the teacher has, looking at the things environmentally that we can provide, and from there we start the work. So we're very grateful to the Somerville School District for this opportunity of collaboration. But not only that, we also of the Week of the Young Child, and last year we participated and our children demonstrating their work, and they felt that they were special, that they were citizens of this community, which they are, that they're future learners. So they felt special in that celebration. So I welcome activities like that. The other thing that we do with Lisa came to our school for a parents meeting. This winter she came and she presented to a group of preschool parents, about 30 plus preschool parents, and talk about the importance of early screening, talk about the steps that they need to undertake if they're going in that route. And so she answered questions for some of our parents, and that's important that they know that they have a partner in the Somerville School District. So we definitely appreciate her time and all her knowledge. We exchanged staff development opportunities and workshops, and Lisa has made it very graciously available to our teachers. And we also open our agency for any training opportunities as well to the community at large. So we are looking forward to more things and more milestones for our agency as a whole.
That's great.
We appreciate your partnership.
Yep.
I mean, the best partnerships are ones that are reciprocal. And,
That's right.
You know, we're
That's
all
right.
learning
Yep.
from one another.
Exactly.
And I know that, you know, Lisa and others have spoken so highly of, you know, Peabody House, and, you know, the other partners are part of our mixed delivery. You know, Lisa, you've been at this now for a long time. And, you know, how have you seen, what are some of the major shifts you have seen in our understanding of the early ed space?
Well, one very positive thing is that it's on the radar.
Right.
When I got here, it was sort of under the radar. It was a thing that, you know, happened before kindergarten, but might have been a little bit mysterious for some people. And then also having people understand the importance of early education. So in the field, I think there's so much brain research out right now, research on social emotional development, about the importance of those early years. So we know a lot more now.
Right.
However, some of our systems have not caught up with that brain research. And so as a community, it's really our responsibility now to share that information with families and to help them know what's available to them. So I think those are ways in which things are shifting a little bit. And making sure everyone understands the importance of those early years and what their opportunities are.
Can you talk a little bit more about the mixed delivery model? You know, we alluded to that earlier. You know, what is the strength in having a mixed delivery model? What do each agency bring to the table? Why is that important in the community?
Sure. Without a mixed delivery system, we just have a series of very siloed places, like stores where you might go to buy something, who are competing with each other for the best prices, so to speak. When you have a mixed delivery system, when Kretcha works with us, when we work with Head Start or other centers, we're actually offering families more choice, and choice that's consistent with what we know it works best for children. The other piece of the mixed delivery system, and Kretcha, you started to talk about this with the professional development piece, is when I offer professional development for Kretcha, or she has a need, we can also see who else has that need and offer things together. And we have a shared understanding across all those centers of what quality is, what it looks like, what our teachers need, and then together we can develop that. Without the mixed delivery system, we get siloed in our public school building, and then we're not sharing, and we're not learning from you also, because you have some amazing things to share with us.
And I think also it's a process of self-reflection as a group, of self-awareness of the things that we're doing right, where we are now, and how can we become better. I think this is the process that we are really looking forward as a group, and that's why we have different meetings through the month, so that we can come together as a collaboration and talk about our challenges, our needs, but our opportunities and areas that we can contribute to with each other. That's another benefit for this partnership as well.
Totally. Right. Next week we're going to, or the week after next, we're going to be meeting to talk about potential tuition assistance for families who can't afford childcare. I can't make that decision. We will have to do that together
Right.
with information from what other states, cities, or counties are doing, and come up with the best system for Somerville.
So as you look at preschool classes, when you go in and you're talking with teachers or the coaches are working with them, what are some of the elements that you really like to see in an early childhood classroom that speaks to an environment that you know that's doing the best for the children?
Yeah, I think there's three things we need to think about. One, and no one disputes this, is the interactions between the adults and the children. So are the adults getting down on the child's level? Are they really talking with children and supporting their learning in the best possible way? We know those back and forth interactions are very, very important for children's language development. So what are those like? Are they empathic and sensitive and warm and caring and yet firm? We need that too. So the interactions and the relationships. The second piece is about the environment itself. It needs to be beautiful. It needs to be a welcoming, homey space where kids want to learn, where families feel welcome, not cluttered. And so we're really working on the bones of these environments and these classrooms across the city in public schools and centers to really make sure they're inviting and welcoming, and that things are accessible to children, that they can go in and learn how to make decisions and choices, and that the environment's set up. And then the third thing is really what's available to kids. So sometimes as adults or non-educators, we might go in and it looks really cute and pretty and like there's lots of neat stuff for kids to do, but there might not be anything very interesting happening. So one of the things we're working with teachers on is how do you take that same tub of Duplos and make it more interesting for a child so they're not being served the same thing day after day. So the activities have to be interesting and compelling, or else kids get bored, and then you see behavior starting to happen that you don't want to see. And often when we change the environment and we change and make things more interesting, all of that goes away. And kids are engaged and having interesting experiences. But it is that combination of the adult, the environment, and the actual activities that they're offered.
Speaking of engaging kids, can you talk a little bit about the Week of the Young Child event and how that fits in to this approach of a community-wide system for early education and care?
Sure. I mean, it really is on the base level as a civics lesson for children and families and teachers. We ask the mayor of Somerville to write a letter to the children of Somerville, and we send that letter out to every center and classroom in the city, asking them what would make Somerville a kind and fair place for everyone. And in the letter he says, and I want you to do some research. I want you to think about how you can show me that. And so we set classrooms on a course for doing research and projects to bring to City Hall if they come to the event that we had yesterday, or they can just bring those anytime. This year someone made a compost bin with a message for the mayor about the importance of composting for the environment, and inside were little vegetables that they had written their messages on, and it is now in the mayor's office. He has his very own cardboard compost bin made by some children. They made books for him, they made posters about kindness and fairness. And then the children come and sing with Mauro Mendoza, who's one of our Somerville Family Learning Collaborative professionals, and just had a wonderful, wonderful time. They vote in downstairs on their favorite way to be kind using the old voting machines that crank. We have the Beautiful Stuff Project, so they get to create necklaces or sometimes crowns. And so it's just a way for them to be in City Hall, but it also makes children visible to people in City Hall just for about an hour. There are over 200 children walking around City Hall, reminding our community that children are some of our most important people.
And they're learning about their role, the role that they play in this community.
Yeah, and the mayor really engages with almost every child. He walks through the entire city council chamber, shakes their hands, and kids are talking back to them and telling him things, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful to watch.
We've even had a couple of costumes where they dress up as the mayor.
This year no one dressed as the mayor, but in the past we have had many mayors at the Young Child event.
So, you know, as you think, Kretcha and Alyssa, as you think about the needs of the early childhood community, what have you seen change over time?
Yeah, so Alyssa at Peabody House 3 years or 4 years ago predominantly served families who were paid with subsidized assistance by the Department of Early Care and Early Education and Care. And we have seen a change in that. So I could say almost 100% of our children use subsidized assistance in the past, not anymore. We're almost 50-50 and sometimes 60-50 as parents that can pay private pay parents. So we have definitely seen a change in that. We're serving more private pay parents versus subsidized assistance parents or parents who use subsidized assistance. We have also seen parents who do not qualify for the requirements of the Department of Early Education and Care, that they have opted because of they cannot afford private pay rate, they have opted then to reduce the amount of time that the child spends in preschool. So instead of having full 5 days, 3 5 days or mornings, because they want to have them exposed to the preschool programming, but they cannot afford the 5 days. So we're hopeful that with this grant, we can find a way of funding those special families who are working parents, who will really benefit from having a full day for their children, but they cannot pay. And Alyssa at Peabody House is one of the most affordable daycare centers in the city, but still parents are having a hard time paying full price. So that's one of our hopes, that with this grant we can make that happen for those families and close that gap that we're looking at. The other thing that I want to say is that children, because we're so social and economically diverse in our community, we have children and families from Africa, from Haiti, from Brazil, from Latin America. We're very, very diverse. Our population is very diverse. We may have children whose first language is not English. Last year we had a Russian preschool child. This year we have other different types of children who their first language is not English. So we have to work with those families very differently. We have to be culturally sensitive to those families so that we can introduce them to this preschool programming. They may not know anything about it. And so it's a different start, right? When culturally you don't know what to expect. And so we start differently with those families, and we make sure that we're very attentive to those needs in our midst as well.
So the CPPI grant really is, there's 3 primary components to it, right? It's equity, access, and quality. Can you talk a little bit about what you envision that's going to entail? And Alyssa, it would be great if you can talk a little bit about what your role is going to be in managing this project.
So why don't you start, Alyssa, with sort of the overall management of the moving parts as Susana started to lay those out.
Yes, so as we're starting to figure that out, I think it's trying to keep all the different parts in mind and make sure they're working in tandem. And so the access and the quality pieces, and so we have some things that we're putting right into motion right away, and other things we're trying to figure out how it's going to work down the line. And so there's kind of dual parts of my role, that like immediate, figuring out how we're going to order materials and all these like small details that are so important. And then also figuring out how tuition assistance is going to work down the line and putting that strategy in place. So my role will be working really closely with directors and with Lisa to set up those systems in the way that supports people in the best way, while also keeping those long-term goals in mind and doing the strategy behind the scenes to figure that out. And then the other piece that's going to be really important is figuring out our outreach and communications and marketing. I think a big part of what Kretcha was just speaking about, families have an increased need for childcare, but they don't have an increased knowledge of what is out there and available to them. And so we need to fill in the gap there and make sure they do know what's around and what their options are and how they can access them, whether it's through tuition assistance or whatever it is. And so that's another huge piece of the work that we're trying to figure out right now. We can't just build the systems and then not tell anyone about it.
Right.
We need,
Exactly.
we need to do both. So that's a little snapshot of my role and what I'll be doing.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
And we've talked about some of the access and quality pieces, but another equity piece that comes up, Kretcha talked about the equity in terms of people being able to afford childcare, but we haven't talked about our workforce at all, and that is a big part of this grant and work that we need to do. There are wonderful early childhood educators in our centers who may be making $20,000 to $25,000 less than a public school teacher would make, and yet they are working full day all year long. And so in our system in this country, we have great inequity in how people who are working with our youngest people, sometimes our most vulnerable population, are least paid and maybe one step away from some of the families they serve in high needs areas. And so part of this grant will be to try and figure out how we can, along with our partners at the state and along with our partners at the city, create some pay equity, equity in their access to professional development and equity in their overall salaries, and what that will mean. We have not figured that out. It is a big hurdle, but we are working together to try and make sure teachers are receiving stipends, for example, for their participation in activities that we do in our mixed delivery system.
Right, that's wonderful. So as you think ahead in the landscape, I mean, there's so many exciting things happening. What would be, if you could wish for anything, what would be the thing that you'd love to see happen here in Somerville?
For me, that I could talk to any family and ask them about early education and they would know exactly where to go. And they would be able to get exactly what they needed. The just right childcare situation for any family at any time.
That's great.
That's wonderful. I would wish for that too.
Yeah, right?
And it will happen.
It will happen.
I also think that, if we could identify families at risk and provide the wraparound support that they need so that they can be successful when they enter to kindergarten or the next step for them. As a social worker, that's what I would love to see, that they are equipped with the needed services that they need for the families.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And we hope that happens as well.
I would agree with all of that, and then I also think that of course that kids are kindergarten ready when they get there, but also pre-K and any early learning experience should be a child's first introduction that the system is set up for them to succeed, rather than coming in and it could be the first sign that it really isn't.
Right.
And so what I would want is that every kid who goes into an early learning environment in Somerville gets that message that they're important and that the system is set up for them to do well.
That's great.
So that's an incredible amount of things that we want to accomplish.
We can do it.
Right.
We're on our way.
Is there anything you'd quickly like to let parents know that's coming up for early childhood?
Well, I think just to keep looking at social media and different ways that we'll be communicating with them, and to keep knocking on our door. If there's something that you feel you need. I got a phone call the other day, someone said, she didn't leave her name and number, it just said, we need more preschool for 3-year-olds. I was like, great, okay, that's a good message from a community member. So we want families to be really looking for those messages. They'll be coming from our new enrollment center right here at the Cummings. How will we be doing outreach? What's the one door that you're going to be able to go through? So the door is coming, it is being built, we want you to look for it and to come through and know what's available.
That's wonderful. Speaking of communications,
We're out of time.
we are out of time. Is there anything you'd like to add for the updates?
Just a quick reminder to follow us on social media, visit our website to learn what's happening in our schools, in our district, and in our city. And a very quick update that April 15th through the 19th is April vacation week. So
right.
all schools will be closed during that week.
We hope students have a wonderful week
That's
off
right.
and enjoy themselves. We'd like to thank Steve DiCarlo, Joe Constantine, Lenny Scaletta, and Ben Martin for helping us bring the show today. And we look forward to seeing you on our next show, Our Schools, Our City.